The reason for all this is Sergeant Pepper himself. Will you please welcome Marc Desmond?
Woo!
The fifth Beatle.
Actually, I was number 5.5.
They're actually...
I want to thank everybody, all my good friends, lovely Rita, Mr. Mustard, and of course...
Uncle Albert.
Yeah, and of course, Lucy, without whom my life would have been pretty much the same as it is, actually.
There are probably more fifth Beatles than Beatles, if you think about it.
Well, there are now, certainly. Okay, this is a real old one. And I think it's did about a year ago, maybe a little more, but I've sort of pruned it down. And I want to try reading the new version out loud. It's called Left Behind. I hold chaos as representative of your memory. It scans the marks on my hunting hands, humid with the drawing power of tears, scattered to seed the knowledge of disorder that smells of hair flipped back from cheeks, luminous with effort in the progression of hours, separated from the mundane madness by a glassy envelopment of portable happiness invading your tubes and turning you outside into the laughing stream of contentiousness, conscientiousness, marbled fat, moving fingers, never writing much of no consequence, burning paper, sin's remission, and an elephant daring you to ignore the depth of comprehension and the recovery of depth, dragging you full blast into the mouth of archetype and covering you with something that reflects the campfire. You draw needles and representations of infinite plasticity peering from the crowd into a land that rises and rolls, imitating hills in the eyes of your creations. Your fingers are sectioned into perfect shapes, changing dimension at unexpected times, reaching past the outside and through the inside to weed out tendrils of meaning and disguise them in fermentation and regret. You howl into the box and discharge the return of your sentiments. You follow yourself endlessly past the checkpoint of days. You endure the screech of canyons. You hover at the point of acceptance and empty your hands of precipitation. You reduce pictures to shadows that pin themselves to the dust. Your souls toss aside. You mix substances in different states of being and you sink into them alone. Don't do this. Don't disappear into the zone of transparency painted on the surfaces of your eyes, frozen into infancy, dilated to the cusp of paranoia, taking the atmosphere of threat buried under a landslide of kindness, held within the borders of privilege, but denied the coverage of abundance. Don't swirl away to the music of steam rising and falling and turning and sitting perfectly still on a splinter, spiraling into the barbecued sky on the wings of fear. Don't be the child of spite and helplessness, fearing to forge yourself to others. Don't put out your arm. Don't lock your elbow. Don't dance down the hurricane. Don't forget me. And this is a piece I wrote for a Dutch documentary crew who's doing a segment on the Rogue Scholars a month or so ago. I think most of you have heard of this in other places, but I feel, entitled to read a poem once in every room, regardless. This is Ice Age. In a previous life, I fucked a penguin in Antarctica, dealing the momentum and passing the test of... Oh, you haven't heard it. Okay. Good. In a previous life, I fucked a penguin in Antarctica, dealing the momentum and passing the test of modernity. A head count. Jealousy reamed me in that Victorian landscape of ineffectual fire and damnation, screaming in friction down the shit-stained sidewalks of Adelaide land to the south of coherence. The very air broke from the strain of speaking the names of the damned dark howlers. A gale lumbered across the Tennyson Flats like a radish in heat, drained from the air into a pocket of singularity. I could never understand the attraction of a Tootsie Pop with legs bumping through the darkness into a randy dump, 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 a lump of frozen turd, discovered, uncovered, choke it down and forget to smile. That was the rule in those brusque and furry days, marginalized by the prospect of force and fire. Fury grazed me and knocked me over into a giant round hold for a triumph of the mind over the rope bridge spanning the ages. We traded words and flint, tinder, tenderly preserving our discoveries until we could whittle them down to an innocuous pretense, ram them up our coercive assholes, and vomit them into the plenum of dust. I was created in an old moment, an eddy of tune-time tintinnabulation and an impoverishment of form. I said what I meant to swallow and sank into the febrile layer of assumption running beneath the frozen petticoats of earth, creating a chthonic disturbance from old rags and gratitude. Alliances failed, trade routes crumbled, lies were scattered and lay where they fell. Clouds and dust became indiscriminate. In a bow-tie sunset, I climbed away from the adhesive ground and rammed my tongue into space. I became bored with the metaphor of white powder and gyred myself deep into the angular trim tiles slated to be ground into a continent infused with lethargy and considerably more distant from the frenetic distillery of nonsensical outlooks and an orrery jangling out of tune, streaming, schooling on crystal dives. The flaw expanded and I scattered to the corners of my mind. I am down now and frozen, struggling to be born into a loop of time, magnifying my faults. I mistook ice for a strand of years and followed myself into a temporary oblivion. I was born out of the midst of process, and now I rhyme myself over the estuary. I have forgotten, oh my consonant companion, how the pledge was trumpeted to the paralytic air, how I forced myself into emotion, betraying the death of context, how I came to be sitting here, next to your memory, and somehow smiling, as though I had forgotten just how long it should take to smother the defeat of chance. I have overflowed into this life, timing myself while the sterile seduction plays itself out in a union of fingerprints, and in hell, and in heaven, and in remorse, and in irons, and in a little bit of love, and in a corner, and in league with the dust, and in an abattoir, and on the wings of an albatross, and in whole life terminated on a hairy line circling around sources of heat and cold until I die in mischief, belaboring the state of Graceland. Amen. And somewhere, it is still cold and young and changeless.
There's Marc Desmond.